WNBA fined me for talking about the refs.
No! You got fined for episode 1?
Dude, they fined me $1,500.
Maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. Welcome back to the channel where we get deep into the moments that matter. Before we get into anything else tonight, we need to talk about Sophie Cunningham, because what happened to her last night isn't just a basketball story, it's a human story that exposes some uncomfortable truths about the game we love. Controversial take to start us off. The WNBA has a protection problem, and Sophie Cunningham is the latest casualty in a league that talks about player safety but keeps letting reckless contact slide as just basketball. But here's the thing, I'm not here to bash anyone or start fights. I'm here because I genuinely care about these athletes as people, and what I saw last night broke my heart before it impressed me. So grab your favorite snack, settle in, and let's have an honest conversation about the collision that changed a season, the scoring explosion that saved it, and the emotional moment that reminded us why this matters. If you're new here and you care about protecting players first, drop a quick comment so I know you're with us. Let's go. Let's start with the moment that made everything else feel bittersweet. Second quarter, 7:43 on the clock, and Sophie Cunningham is having the game of her life. She'd already hit 3 triples, looked confident and locked in. This was supposed to be her night. Connecticut's running a side pick and roll, ball swings to Bria Hartley on the baseline. Sophie slides over in perfect help position, hands up, feet planted, doing everything exactly right. Hartley catches, takes a hard dribble toward the rim, and then the collision. Hartley's momentum carries her directly into Sophie's planted right leg. The sound echoed through the arena, that sickening pop that makes everyone hold their breath. Sophie crumples, tries to get up, can't put weight on it, goes back down. Quieter, more personal. You could see it in her face, guys, that look of no, not now, not when everything was going so well. Trainers sprinting, teammates forming a protective circle, and 15,000 people suddenly understanding that basketball is just a game, but careers are everything. The diagnosis came swift and brutal. Right knee injury, will not return. Just like that, Indiana's best shooter, their emotional leader, their never-back-down energy was gone. Look, injuries are part of sports. We all know that. But this one hits different for 3 reasons, and I need you to understand why the basketball world is genuinely angry right now. First, Sophie was having a career year. Best shooting percentage of her career at 41% from 3, most confident I've ever seen her. Finally finding her perfect role in Stephanie White's system. She wasn't just filling a roster spot, she was becoming essential. Second, Indiana is already held together with basketball tape and prayers. Caitlin Clark still working back from injury. Ari McDonald done for the season. Sydney Colson out long-term. This team has been asked to climb mountains with a skeleton crew, and Sophie was one of the few healthy pillars keeping everything upright. Third, the manner of the injury. This wasn't a freak accident or bad luck. This was preventable contact that happened because we've normalized a level of physicality that crosses the line from competitive to dangerous. I know some of you are thinking basketball is physical, deal with it, and you're right to a point. But there's a difference between hard basketball and reckless basketball. Comment protect players if you think the league needs to do better, or part of the game if you think I'm overreacting. Let's have an honest conversation about where that line should be. When Sophie goes down, it's not just one player leaving the floor, it's like removing a key piece from a puzzle and watching the whole picture fall apart. Let me explain why her injury made everyone else's job infinitely harder. For Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie's corner 3 threat meant defenders had to respect her space, giving Kelsey cleaner driving lanes. Every time Kelsey attacked the basket, she knew that corner was money if help defense collapsed. That confidence changes everything about how aggressive you can be offensively. For Aaliyah Boston, when Sophie's on the floor, Boston gets cleaner post-up looks because weak side help has to stay honest on the perimeter. Take Sophie away, and suddenly there's an extra defender lurking in the paint every single possession. For the entire system, Coach White loves running 5-out sets where all 5 players can shoot from deep. Sophie was the anchor that made those lineups work. Without her gravity, those sets become 4-out and pray someone gets hot. Defensively, Sophie could guard multiple positions, switch on screens, and talk everyone into the right spots. She's the kind of glue player that advanced stats love but casual fans sometimes overlook. Think of it like this. Imagine your favorite restaurant suddenly lost their head chef. Sure, someone else can cook the food, but it's not going to taste the same, the timing will be off, and everything feels just a little bit harder. That's what losing Sophie did to this Fever team. After the collision, social media exploded. Family members, former teammates, Fever fans, neutral observers, everyone had something to say. And before anyone starts with social media overreacts to everything, let me tell you why this anger is actually justified. Point 1, pattern recognition. This isn't an isolated incident. We've seen too many basketball plays this season that resulted in players getting hurt on contact that felt unnecessary. At some point, you have to ask if the officiating standards are protecting players or just protecting the flow of the game. Point 2, accountability. When a player gets hurt on a play like this, there's usually radio silence from the league office. No explanation of whether it was reviewed, no clarification on what constitutes a flagrant, no acknowledgement that maybe the standards need adjustment. Point 3, the human element. These aren't just basketball players. They're people with families, dreams, financial obligations. Sophie's injury doesn't just affect her basketball season, it affects her entire life. Her ability to provide for herself, her confidence, her mental health. I'm not saying Bria Hartley is a dirty player. She's not. I'm not saying it was intentional. It probably wasn't. But I am saying that when these accidents keep happening at a rate that feels alarming, maybe it's time to look at the bigger picture. What if the league implemented automatic reviews for any contact that removes a player from the game? What if there was a weekly transparency report about officiating standards? What if player safety became as important as entertainment value? Let's take a moment to appreciate what Sophie was giving this team before last night, because the numbers tell an incredible story of growth and impact. The shooting, 41.2% from 3 on 4.8 attempts per game. That's not just good, that's elite territory. She'd become one of the most reliable catch-and-shoot threats in the entire league. The versatility, Sophie was guarding positions 1 through 4 depending on the matchup. She could switch on to guards in pick-and-roll coverage, hold her own against bigger forwards in the post, and rotate help defense without getting lost. The intangibles, leadership, communication, that I'm not backing down energy that rubs off on teammates. You can't quantify it in a box score, but you sure can feel it when it's gone. The clutch factor. In games decided by single digits, Sophie was shooting over 45% from deep. When the pressure was highest, she was at her best. This was supposed to be Sophie's validation season, the year she proved she wasn't just a role player, but a legitimate impact player who could help carry a franchise. And now she's watching from the sideline while her team fights for their playoff lives. That's why Stephanie White was in tears after the game. It wasn't just about winning, it was about winning without someone who'd given everything to be there. But then, Kelsey Mitchell said, "Climb on." Okay, but here's where the story takes a wild turn. Because sometimes in basketball, just like in life, when everything looks lost, someone steps up and reminds you why you never give up on this beautiful game. Third quarter, Indiana down 21 points. Sophie's injury has the building deflated, the Sun are running fast breaks like it's a scrimmage, and most teams would have packed it in. But then Kelsey Mitchell looked around that huddle and basically said, "Y'all ain't ready for what's about to happen." The takeover began, stop and pop threes before the defense could set, mid-range pull-ups when the switch gave her a bigger defender, hesitation crossovers into the lane that collapsed help and created kickouts for teammates. And when Connecticut finally started selling out to stop her, perfect reads, perfect passes, perfect timing. Kelsey dropped 34 of her 38 points after halftime. Let me repeat that, 34 in 2 quarters in overtime. Not a hot streak, not a lucky night, a complete takeover by a player who decided her team wasn't going home without a fight. And then overtime, clock ticking under a minute, game on the line, and Kelsey drives hard to the basket. Help defense collapses and she finds Lexi Hull in the corner, bottom, ball game, 99-93. The largest comeback in Indiana Fever franchise history, powered by one of the most incredible individual performances you'll see all season. The supporting cast that made it possible, but let's be real, even Kelsey's historic night doesn't happen in a vacuum. This was a team effort disguised as an individual takeover, and we need to show love to the players who made it possible. Aaliyah Boston, quiet double-double with 16 points and 11 rebounds, but the impact went way beyond the box score. Every time Connecticut tried to run, Boston was there to grab the defensive rebound and slow things down. Her high-low passing kept the offense flowing when sets broke down. Natasha Howard, the steady veteran presence who hit timely mid-range shots when Indiana needed baskets. 6 assists tells the story. She was finding the right person at the right time all night long. Lexi Hull hadn't been shooting well lately, but hit the dagger 3 in overtime and came up with crucial rebounds when the game was in the balance. Sometimes your job isn't to be perfect, it's to be ready when opportunity knocks. Odyssey Sims, her pace and energy off the bench kept Connecticut's defense running backward. Even when her shots weren't falling, she was creating tempo and transition opportunities that changed the game's rhythm. This is what championship teams look like, folks. Your star explodes for 38, but everyone else contributes winning plays at winning time. Different roles, same goal, one heartbeat. And then came the moment that really got me. Post-game press conference, Stephanie White trying to talk about her team's resilience, and she just broke down. Started crying right there at the podium, talking about connectedness and toughness and never giving up. If you're just checking box scores, that might seem like an overreaction. But if you've been following this team's journey, the injuries, the adversity, the constant questions about whether they're good enough, those tears made perfect sense. This is a coach who's watched her team get asked to climb mountains in flip-flops all season long. Every time they find their rhythm, another injury. Every time they build momentum, another setback. And last night they had to celebrate a victory while mourning an injury to one of their own. That's an impossible emotional balance, and sometimes coaches cry, not because they're weak, but because they've been carrying something heavy for too long and finally got to set it down for a moment. That speech wasn't a soundbite for ESPN. It was a pressure release from someone who genuinely loves her players as people, not just as basketball assets. If you felt that emotion through the screen, you understand why this game meant more than just a win in the standings. Most importantly, send some positive energy to Sophie Cunningham. Basketball is just a game, but recovery is real life, and she's going to need all our support to get back to doing what she loves. If this deep dive helped you understand the story behind the highlights, smash that like button, subscribe for more honest basketball conversations, and I'll see you next time when we break down the games that matter. Get well soon, Sophie. Shout out to Kelsey for that incredible performance. And respect to Coach White for showing us that caring about your players as people is never something to apologize for. Until next time, keep hooping and keep caring. Peace.